Good evening and welcome to NTD News. I'm Stephania Cox. Here are today's top stories. Americans will soon be able to enjoy the fresh air in some of the nation's national parks. The president wants to reopen them to combat the isolation of stay-at-home orders. They'll reopen on the condition that visitors practice social distancing. And it may come just in time as the top 3 virus hotspots in the nation see their virus numbers drop. We see which states across the country are planning to reopen. President Trump says the U.S. Navy can shoot at Iranian gunboats. The announcement comes after Navy ships were harassed by Iranian vessels. The State Department says it's disrupted hundreds of COVID-19 related scams. It's now advising people to verify any website related to the virus. And an exclusive story. A Chinese CDC document obtained by NTD shows virus figures in one district in Harbin City have been grossly underreported. Fresh air and open spaces are on the horizon for those stuck at home. The U.S. is set to reopen some of its national parks as long as visitors and staff keep their distance.
But in this time of trial, the beauty of springtime fills us with the peace and the hope of renewal.
President Trump made the announcement on Wednesday.
I'm pleased to announce that in line with my administration's guidelines for opening up America again, we will begin to reopen our national parks and public lands for the American people to enjoy.
He spoke during a tree planting ceremony at the White House. It was held to celebrate Earth Day, National Park Week, and the upcoming Arbor Day.
On this special occasion, we are renewing our strong national commitment on conserving the wonders of God's creation. One of the most important ways we uphold this tradition is by protecting our priceless national parks.
A number of parks have been completely shut down across the country, an effort to abide by nationwide stay-at-home orders. The parks include Yellowstone, the Grand Canyon, Utah's Zion National Park, California's Yosemite and Sequoia National Parks. Trump didn't give further details, instead gesturing to Secretary of the Interior David Bernhardt. Bernhardt said the decisions to reopen will be made in line with governors' plans to reopen their economies.
Stay-at-home orders are set to expire at the end of the month, and many governors have not extended them. The nation's top 3 virus hotspots are seeing fewer cases and drops in hospitalizations. NTD's Melina Weiskup has the updates.
President Trump says that 20 states are planning to reopen. Georgia is one of them. Cases there have slowed in recent weeks. Despite criticism from some local mayors, the governor says it's time for the economy to recover.
When we have more people moving around, we're probably going to see our cases continue to go up. But we're a lot better prepared for that now than we were over a month ago.
The state's highest number of positive cases in a day, around 800. In recent weeks, that number has dropped by hundreds. Yesterday, only 23 tested positive in Georgia. Texas is eager to restart the economy, too. They already opened state parks, with more steps to come Monday.
They will consider the possibility of opening more venues like restaurants.
And lawmakers in Wisconsin filed a lawsuit yesterday, opposing their governor's decision to extend the stay-at-home order until the end of May. But some states aren't quite ready to reopen yet. Massachusetts and New Jersey, 2 of the nation's hotspots, are seeing slight drops in the number of new cases and hospitalizations. New York continues to see declines, too. Over 20,000 New Yorkers have died from the CCP virus. Nearly 500 lives lost every day this week.
This is not going to be over anytime soon.
Stay-at-home orders in New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, along with 6 other states, continue until the middle or end of May. Melina Weiskup, NTD News.
As the situation eases up in New York, the USNS Comfort will soon leave the state. And in Alabama, residents gather outside the state capitol to protest a stay-at-home order. The governor intends to keep the order in place through April.
A group of protesters gathered outside the Alabama Capitol on Tuesday to protest the state's stay-at-home order.
We're not able to work right now, and we really want to go back to work.
Governor Kay Ivey said she intends to keep the stay-at-home order in place until April 30th.
You know, I'm furloughed right now, and I think, what they're doing as far as the lockdown and everything is unconstitutional to start with.
Ivy will decide next week on what can reopen. She says the decisions will be driven by data amid public safety concerns. Residents are concerned about their financial situations.
We've applied for unemployment, we've been denied. We've applied for the pandemic unemployment assistance. We haven't seen a dime of it. In fact, not one single self-employed person that I know has received a dime.
Alabama says it has just over 5,000 cases of the CCP virus and 144 confirmed deaths.
And today, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said the U.S. strongly believes the CCP broke its obligation to the WHO to provide timely, accurate, and detailed information about the virus.
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said he strongly believes that the CCP did not report to the WHO fast enough when the virus broke out.
We strongly believe that the Chinese Communist Party did not report the outbreak of the new coronavirus in a timely fashion to the World Health Organization.
He went on to say that China has an obligation under WHO rules to give them detailed and accurate information quickly. Besides the slow response, he said the CCP still hasn't shared its sample of the virus, which could give more insights on how it has developed.
CCP still has not shared the virus sample from inside of China with the outside world, making it impossible to track the disease's evolution.
But Pompeo suggested that this isn't the U.S.'s job. In other words, because China joined the WHO is responsible for making sure China follows those rules. So he urged the international agency to enforce these rules for the sake of saving lives.
A new poll shows 2/3 of Americans hold a negative view of the Chinese Communist Party. It's the highest percentage on record. The Pew Research Center's poll says about 9 in 10 Americans consider the regime's power and influence a threat. 91% felt China's impact on the environment is serious, with human rights being a concern for 82% of respondents. The news comes as world leaders call Beijing out for its cover-up of the virus outbreak. In another recent Harris poll, Americans showed bipartisan distrust of Beijing. About 77% of Americans blame the CCP for the spread of the virus, and that belief was echoed across the political spectrum. And moving online, where scammers have been taking advantage of the pandemic, posing as the IRS and even as charities. But the Department of Justice announced today it's hitting back at hundreds of fraudsters.
On Wednesday, the Department of Justice announced it's disrupted hundreds of online scams looking to exploit the CCP virus pandemic. Websites posing as the American Red Cross and the IRS have been shut down by several companies after being contacted by the DOJ. So far, the department has reviewed over 3,600 complaints about COVID-19 scams. Some ask for donations or banking information, and others advertise fake vaccines and cures for the virus. But COVID-19 scams have also spread to businesses. Earlier this month, the FBI alerted private companies of fake doctor's notes used by employees, which have caused businesses to shut down. The DOJ is asking people to verify websites, emails, and advertisements related to the virus if they come across them.
The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says a second wave of the CCP virus could hit this winter, and it's likely to happen at the peak of flu season.
Dr. Robert Redfield, the head of the CDC, told the Washington Post on Tuesday a second wave of the virus later this year could be more difficult than the current strand. Redfield stressed that states should remain cautious as they move to reopen their economies and continue to practice social distancing measures. He said the practice has had an enormous impact on containing the outbreak, but said Americans need to plan ahead and consider getting a flu shot in the summer so when winter comes, hospitals are not once again overburdened. Redfield called for state officials to increase contact tracing and testing. At the same time, the CDC is discussing with state officials the possibility of enlisting and training workers from the U.S. Census Bureau and volunteers from Peace Corps and AmeriCorps to create a new contact tracing workforce.
And with new tech-based ways to do contact tracing in the works, there are mixed views on if they'll help and if it should be done at all. But with more states reopening, the president and governors agree it's crucial to keep an eye on the spread.
As states start planning to reopen, testing and contact tracing are top priorities. Google and Apple have partnered on a project. They are working to make contact tracing possible using Bluetooth. But some lawmakers aren't so comfortable with the idea. Republican Senator Josh Hawley sent a letter to the companies expressing his concerns. While the tech companies say that the data collected from users will be anonymous, Hawley mentions in his letter that there are ways to get around the protection. He says Americans are right to be skeptical of this project, and some people aren't sure Google and Apple's tracing will help very much. According to a recent poll by Pew Research, 6 out of 10 Americans say that tracking their locations will not make much of a difference in slowing the spread. 48% of people say it's unacceptable for the government to track those who test positive for the virus.
Today, a ban on most surgical abortions in Arkansas moves ahead. A U.S. appeals court allowed the state to enforce the ban. It's part of a state directive to postpone non-urgent medical procedures during the CCP virus pandemic. The 8th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in St. Louis, Missouri, halted a federal judge's order that had allowed abortions. The ruling does not affect early-stage abortions induced through medication. Arkansas is among a handful of states that have sought to limit abortion during the crisis. Their purpose is to ensure medical resources are available during the pandemic. And today, President Trump announced a new order for the U.S. Navy about how to respond to Iranian gunboats that harass U.S. ships.
President Trump wrote on Twitter he's instructed the Navy to shoot down and destroy Iranian gunboats if they harass U.S. ships. The order follows an incident last week in which Iranian boats were filmed buzzing U.S. Navy ships in the Persian Gulf. The Navy said the Iranian boats came extremely close and at high speed, as close as 10 yards to U.S. ships. They crossed the so-called point of approach, 50 yards out. The Defense Intelligence Agency said Tuesday Iran's military claimed it added new anti-ship missiles to its arsenal. The agency says Iran already has one of the most powerful long-range missiles in the region, and the new missiles can travel up to 430 miles. It comes amid increased military tensions between the two nations.
Up next, China is rolling out digital coupons in an effort to stave off a recession, but many residents point to flaws. That and more when we return.
How do we get to this point? Back in December, the coronavirus was already spreading in Wuhan, and the Chinese Communist Party was covering it up and punishing the whistleblowers who dared to report the truth. Their actions led to this pandemic, which now has us, in America, stuck in our homes and losing our jobs. To this very day, the Communist Party is still lying, making it more critical than ever for us to get honest reporting about China. The Epoch Times is able to bring you the uncensored truth because we maintain a network of underground sources inside of China, hidden from the censors of the communist government. For instance, our investigative team has been contacting individual funeral homes, hospitals, and they've obtained leaked internal documents which show that China's official numbers are massively underreported by a factor of at least 10. If you're looking for an honest source of news that can keep you informed and safe, check out The Epoch Times. Go to readepoch.com and try your first month for just $1 and get real journalism delivered straight to your doorstep.
China is rolling out digital coupons in an effort to stave off a recession. This as global economies are feeling the impact of the pandemic. NTD's Tiffany Meyer brings us more.
Many Western countries have given cash to citizens as relief aid. In Wuhan, authorities are instead creating $71 million worth of digital coupons to get people spending again. You can get it no matter your income. All you need is a cell phone and a fast hand because you need to grab it with a mobile app. It goes like this. Buy 60 yuan worth of goods at a supermarket, you get 20 yuan discount. Or the rate can be even lower depending on the type of store. It's a kind of rebate. But one netizen did the math, and given Wuhan's population, each person would only get $5 on average. And besides that, you'd still need to spend money first before getting the rebate. Not ideal for the many people in Wuhan who say they have no money left. One netizen says you need to buy a certain amount before you're even eligible for the rebate, and shops are even raising their prices. This coupon is just bait to get people to buy more. Some other Chinese cities have done the same. Chinese citizens see schools reopening as a sign that the situation is easing. But this video shows a school in Heilongjiang province closing again.
看看这情况，高三学生刚开2周又放假了，还是在家里继续上网课呀？看这天都吓的。
The person taking the video says it's only been 2 weeks since the 12th graders resumed school. Now they have to take another break and will study from home. The UK is set to start human testing of a coronavirus vaccine candidate this week. British Health Minister Matt Hancock said Tuesday a vaccine developed by researchers at Oxford University is set to roll out on Thursday. According to a statement, the study will include 510 healthy volunteers. According to a press release earlier this month, this vaccine is one of the leading candidates currently in development globally. The vaccine combines a weakened common cold virus with genes for the coronavirus spikes or crown. And in Belgium, biotech firm Zentech says it has developed a new rapid coronavirus antibody test. They claim it has a 100% accuracy rate. The test takes 10 to 15 minutes. While the test can't detect if the virus is present in the body, it can detect if someone developed antibodies against the virus. The firm plans to produce 3 million a month. These tests could help countries determine when lockdown measures can be lifted.
Internal documents obtained by NTD show that infected cases in the Chinese city of Harbin may be 200 times the official number. Residents there are concerned the situation has been seriously concealed in China's northernmost province. NTD's Sherwin Rong has more.
A document sent from a CDC in Harbin City to high-level officials show that 34 locals tested positive in a CCP virus antibody test in Harbin's Dawai district on April 10th. But the province's health commission reported only 1 case for the whole of Harbin City on that date. That brought the total number of confirmed cases in the city to 2, not including asymptomatic and imported cases. To estimate the real number of infections in Harbin, we can use the figure from the Dawai report and compare it to the city's total population. Dawai district has a population of around 800,000 and Harbin has a population of 11 million. That's 14 times more. That means if Dawai district had 34 cases on April 10th, we could estimate that more than 400 infections for the whole of Harbin City on that day alone. That's 200 times the official number announced for that date.
I don't read state-run media anymore. I got this information from influencers on social media. In Harbin and the surrounding areas, there are 182 virus hotspots. These places, including my neighborhood, are very dangerous. So scary.
An internal recording of a meeting at a main Harbin hospital reveals that the epidemic situation in Heilongjiang is now the worst in the country and the cases are still increasing.
It feels that the epidemic has spread and that it's not under control at all. The epidemic situation is really serious.
Chinese state media reported on April 22nd that non-residents can no longer enter residential areas. Even vehicles registered in other places can't be there. Mr. Kang, an owner of a factory in Harbin, said the government doesn't have any relief policies. So many shops and factories in Harbin have been forced to close down due to high rent and no business.
My factory is now closed. It can't be opened. There is no way. It has been about 3 months already. We just wanted to open up again, but this epidemic came back, so we closed down again. The loss is great.
In recent days, videos show areas being closed down again. Netizens say the second wave has arrived. The person taking this April 20th video says a man committed suicide by jumping off the Harbin Provincial Hospital. Chinese police say his suicide read, "I've developed suicidal thoughts because it's been 10 years and I haven't found a cure for my high fever. It has nothing to do with the epidemic."
There has never been such an expensive price for vegetables, and people's income in the Northeast is low. The testing fees, isolation fees, and treatment fees should not be borne by our citizens. They should be covered by the government. It's forcing people to commit suicides because there's no other way out.
Reporting by Yuning Huang and Shiwen Ron, NTD News.
Still to come, a reunion as Rob Gronkowski comes out of retirement and returns to the NFL. Find out where he'll reunite with Tom Brady and more when we return.
90% of news outlets in the United States are controlled by 6 corporations. They're not out to tell you the truth of what's happening. They're out to tell you the picture of the world that they represent. The mission of the Epoch Times is to chase the truth, to ground all statements in facts, and prevent people from being misled. This is a battle between truth and deceit. Subscribe today and join the Americans who are seeking truth and tradition. We'd love to have you on board.
Are you tired of newspapers spinning the truth and pushing false narratives? And are you looking for honest coverage of Spygate, the true story of collusion? Or the truth behind the crisis at our southern border? Or how the Chinese Communist Party is working to subvert America and our way of life? Then you need to check out the Epoch Times newspaper. It's independent, nonpartisan, and it doesn't push any political agendas. Just go to readepoch.com and try it yourself for a full month for just a single $1. You'll absolutely love it.
Quarterback Tom Brady and formerly retired tight end Rob Gronkowski will soon be reunited. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers announced the acquisition of the 4-time All-Pro tight end as part of the trade with the New England Patriots.
Rob Gronkowski still has 1 year remaining on his contract with New England. He was a formidable offensive weapon and one of Brady's most reliable targets at the Patriots, where he was part of 3 Super Bowl winning teams. A report said the Patriots agreed to trade Gronkowski and a 7th-round draft pick in exchange for a 4th-round pick in the NFL Draft, which begins on Thursday. Gronkowski spent all 9 of his seasons with the Patriots. He leads all current players there with his 79 touchdown receptions since he entered the league in 2010. He also ranks 2nd among tight ends for receiving yards during that time frame. He has over 7,800. Brady won a record 6 Super Bowl championships with the Patriots. He signed with the Buccaneers as a free agent last month.
The Trump administration tells Chevron to wind down oil operations in Venezuela. Foreign imports harm U.S. aluminum and more in business news.
The Trump administration on Tuesday gave Chevron until December 1st to wind down its business in Venezuela, part of its move to ratchet up pressure on Socialist President Nicolas Maduro. Chevron is the last major U.S. oil company still operating there. The U.S. International Trade Commission said the U.S. is harmed by imports of aluminum from 18 countries. The Commerce Department is investigating to see if tariffs are needed, but it has to determine if U.S. producers are hurt and if the countries are unfairly subsidizing their exports or dumping the metal in the U.S. market. The CEO of Chubb said the CCP virus pandemic will likely spur the largest single loss in insurance industry history. Chubb is one of the world's largest insurers. It said the pandemic had not affected its business, but that it could during the second quarter. Delta Airlines said it does not expect air travel to recover for 2 or 3 years. The company is working to slash its cash burn in half. It posted its first quarterly loss in 8 years. Around mid-March, Delta said demand dropped to near zero.
Coming up, some Minnesota residents are dealing with an ice shove. Thawing ice is piling onto itself as it approaches the shore of a lake. Find out why after the break.
Viewers have described China Uncensored like The Daily Show, but about China.
At the beginning, I was super excited when I got 500 views, and now the show's grown to about 500,000 subscribers on YouTube. One episode reached 7.9 million people. I'm a little freaked out that that many people have seen my face. In 5 years, I see China Uncensored as the sole source of edutainment worldwide.
Some homes in Minnesota are dealing with ice shove, a wall of ice moving onto the shoreline and towards their homes.
That's what Stephen Johnson had to deal with in Minnesota, and look what it did to his back porch. The phenomenon is known as ice shove, and it can happen when ice on a lake starts to thaw. If that ice gets pushed by strong winds, it can pile onto itself and form giant chunks. Then it's even easier for the wind to push it more. If you live near the shore, you can get what Johnson got, broken windows and all. There's not too much you can do about it either. A local tourism official says the best you can hope for is the wind to blow in the opposite direction.
In Italy, a scarcity of people makes for a better view of the canals of Venice. One biologist there filming an encounter with a jellyfish.
Ever since the dramatic decrease in human activity, there have been changes in nature all around the world. Here in Venice, waters of the city's canals are clearing up. It's an opportunity to witness mesmerizing creatures not possible before.
I was able to film a jellyfish that was swimming close to the San Marco Square, only a few inches below the water surface.
Biologist Andrea Mangoni said a low tide and less traffic has made marine animals visible in Venice's waters. The squid entered the Venetian canals through tidal flows that connect the upper Adriatic to the lagoon. When the city's lockdown ends, it's most likely these organisms won't be seen here anymore. But it was enough time, at least, to capture some precious moments.
And that's all for today's news. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Stephanie Cox.